Then we come to this issue of Bantu education. So then tell me, do you think I agree with this inferior Bantu education that is being forced on you? You teach it. Oh, but unhappily so, most unhappily so, don't you know that? Did you have your fingers in your ears the 1,000 times I've said so in the classroom? Where were you when I stood there and said that I regarded it as my duty, my deepest obligation to you young men and women to sabotage it? Let's pause there for a moment. My duty, my obligation to sabotage what? Bantu education. If you sabotage, you are inside a system and you try to blow it up from the inside. You're expected to cooperate with it, but in fact, you are like the enemy within. And he says it was my duty and my obligation. Yes, I was part of the system. I'm a teacher in the system. But I was trying to wreck it, ruin it, destroy it from within. And where were you that you didn't notice this? So he goes on there, young men and women, to sabotage it. And that my conscience would not let me rest until I'd succeeded. Conscience, your sense of right and wrong. And then he says, and I have what? I've succeeded. I've got irrefutable proof of my success. Irrefutable means nobody can challenge you. This proof is so solid and so right, nobody can say it isn't proof. And what is the irrefutable proof? He says the fact that Tummy stands there in front of him, challenging him, that he speaks at the meetings with the comrades, that the comrades are out there, is an indication that he has succeeded in sabotaging the system by making young people think for themselves. And I have, yes, I have succeeded. I've got irrefutable proof of my success. You, yes, you can stand here and accuse me unjustly because I have also had a struggle. And I have won mine. I have liberated, freed your mind in spite of what the Bantu education was trying to do to it. Your mouthful of big words and long sentences which the not-so-clever comrades are asking you to speak and write for them. Your wonderful eloquence at last night's meeting which got them all so excited. Yes, I've heard about it. You must thank me for all of that, Tummy. And Tummy challenges him, and he says, yours were lessons in whispering. There are men now who are teaching us to shout. Please look at the difference between that noun and this infinitive. He says Mr. M was teaching him whispering and being very quiet and a kind of passive resistance, nothing very noticeable. But he says, now we're going to shout. And he calls them tricks and jokes. Here he mocks Mr. M. You need a word here like ridicules. Laughs at Mr. M. And he says, you liberated nothing. The struggle doesn't need the big English words you taught me how to spell. Now this touches Mr. M deeply. You know that words are very, very important to Mr. M. This is the man who, in the middle of that debate in the first scene, reached for a dictionary to prove something. So words are very important to him. And he says, if the struggle needs weapons, give it words, Tummy. Stones and petrol bombs can't get inside those armored cars. Words can. They can do something even more devastating than that. They can get inside the heads of those inside the armored cars. So let's have a look at it. We have the idea of weapons, and Mr. M says that words can be a weapon. So this is a plea. This is asking for a recognition of the power of words to change society. He says that stones and petrol bombs are weapons, but they can't get inside the armored cars. The armored cars are protected. You are going to throw your stones and your petrol bombs against the armored cars, and it's going to have no effect whatsoever, But he says, hang on. Words can do that. They can be more devastating, more destructive, more powerful, because words can get inside the heads. This is where people think, and they can change the way the people who are driving the armored cars, the soldiers and the police, words can change the way they think. They can change people's ideas, and so they can change society. So words, discussion, debate, argument, that's what you need to transform or change society. So we've got, once again, the key words in the play: armored cars, weapons, stones, petrol bombs, words, discussion, debate. And then Mr. M basically threatens Tommy. He tries to make him feel very afraid. He says, listen carefully, Tommy. I've received instructions from the department to make a list of all those who take part in the boycott. Do you know what they will do with that list when all this is over? Because don't fool yourself, Tommy, it will be. When your boycott comes to an inglorious end, like all the others, inglorious, no glory, nothing to be proud of, and it's going to end, he says, they will make all of you apply for readmission. And if your name is on the list, he's suggesting he won't get back to school. His education will be ended. And Tommy says, what will you do? Will you make that list for them? That's none of your business. Then don't ask me questions about mine. That is, wow, that's a challenge from this student who's always been obedient up till then. And Mr. M loses it. Yes, I will. I will ask you all the questions I like. And you know why? Because I'm a man and you're a boy. And if you're not in that classroom tomorrow, you'll be a very, very silly boy. So there's huge anger at this moment. Mr. M has lost control of his temper altogether, and he's insulting Tommy in a way that is actually quite disturbing. I'm upset by it. And look at Tommy's response. Then don't call me names, Mr. M. Now, you've got to decide how he would say that. I would have my actor say that very controlled. I wouldn't have him lose it and scream at Mr. M. I would like my fiery activist to be more controlled and disciplined at this point than his teacher. No, then what must I call you? Comrade Tommy? Never. You're a silly boy now, and without an education you'll grow up to be a stupid man. These are his deepest values. Education. That's what you need. Education first and foremost. With education, you can change the system. You can challenge the system. He cannot accept that the children want some kind of freedom, and that they're prepared to sacrifice their education to achieve that kind of freedom. And Isabel tries to comfort Mr. M, and he leaves.